Hello. Welcome
Hello.
to the True Conscious Couple podcast. I am Tiffany Lancaster.
And I'm Brad Lancaster. We are a blended family. When we got together, I had 4 kids, Tiffany had 3, and we've had 1 together.
We're also a couple that runs a business together.
And so we talk about those things. We talk about our journey of self-discovery, of self-improvement.
We talk about the struggles of blended families. We talk about the struggles of business. And we talk about the struggles of doing inner work.
And we also talk about the joy, the peace, the love that comes along with all of that.
And what makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, so come along for the ride.
Hope you enjoy.
Okay, here we go. Episode 23. Welcome, friends, followers, and those of you who are listening for the first time. Welcome to the True Conscious Couple podcast. We're excited. It's been a couple weeks since we've recorded, and we've had some things come up over the last couple weeks that have prompted some different discussions, and we thought we would tackle several different topics today. As we've been doing this podcast, we started off in April, I think. So it's been 8 months or so. And we had the idea that we're just going to kind of be a well-rounded podcast. We talk about real estate. We talk about consciousness. We talk about fitness. What else? Relationships. And this has turned into mostly a relationship and inner work podcast where we talk about consciousness and growth, personal growth.
And blended
families.
Yeah, that's been a big piece.
Yeah. And we also thought we would say, like, we want to accumulate more questions from those of you who are listening. We continue to do our work. We continue to do our study. We continue to do what we need to do to grow. And so we hope to bring that, what we've learned and share with you our experiences and the things that are working and things that aren't working or didn't work, right? So I'm thinking what we were thinking about doing today is that we would just answer some questions that have been coming to us or that we've been getting either from some of our posts or that have been coming up for us.
Yeah. So typically what we've found is if one person's asking a question, typically that same question is on lots of people's minds. So we figured it would be a good idea to kind of do a little Q&A today on today's podcast and just tackle these questions for everybody.
Yeah. So a big part of what we do is what we call the inner work as individuals. So and we've talked about that in previous podcasts. If you need to know what the inner work is, you can.
It's basically doing, I'm sure a lot of you have heard doing the inner work, and you may or may not know exactly what that means, but basically it means acknowledging your blockages. Like we all have these blockages that come up that prevent us from excelling or, accomplishing something in life. And so it's taken a deep dive into what those blockages are and healing whatever it is that's blocking you in that area of your life.
Yeah. And for us, it's a path towards enlightenment.
Yeah.
We're looking to become our best selves. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he calls it, I just went blank. The top of his pyramid, actualization, where you're fully actualized as a human being. The Buddha refers to it as enlightenment. And it's this state of eternal happiness, freedom, and joy.
Yeah.
Right. So, we believe that's one of the reasons that we're on this earth is to continue that path. And it's like this eternal journey. So the inner work, it starts with this basic idea that you came here as a child, as a baby, pure and innocent, loved, fully deserving of love. And somewhere along the way, you've been told that you're not. That for some reason you're not worthy of that. And that caused trauma. And
a lot of times it's unintentional. It's like, our parents are taught from their parents and so on, and everybody has this trauma and these limiting beliefs that they project on their kids. And it's actually necessary too, I will say. Like, we have to go through the suffering to learn from it to evolve. So it's kind of this necessary thing that we have to go through, and it's the challenge of life.
And so in Tiffany and I's study, we try to incorporate, we incorporate Western psychology in our study. We incorporate Eastern spiritual modalities, philosophy, including yoga, Buddhism, even aspects of Hinduism. Well, I didn't realize this until I started studying that Buddhism is a certain aspect of Hinduism, born out of the Hindu beliefs. So that's what we're engaged in, and that's what we're working on, is doing this inner work. And it shows up in these limiting themes of consciousness that keep us from becoming our best self, that keep us from transcending.
Right? Yeah. And you're more in a state of suffering. So the idea of enlightenment is to alleviate the suffering. Because the more that you understand this concept, you can look at these things that are holding you back or that are not in alignment. And the quicker you can deal with them, the quicker you can overcome any kind of suffering. So,
yeah. So one of the most common questions, I mean, you got it from a good friend this week, and we hear it often, and we've seen it, and we've dealt with it ourselves, is what do you do if you are engaged in the inner work? You've understood that there are these limiting themes of consciousness, and you realize now I am responsible for healing that. Mm-hmm. But your partner doesn't want to do that.
Yeah. It's pretty common, I think, for more common than not, for one partner to start doing this type of inner work, and the other partner still kind of like thinks it's woo-woo or doesn't believe that they have any trauma or any inner work that needs to be done, which is not true, by the way, every human being.
Yeah. We were, a family member of ours told me this week that they don't believe that they really have any trauma that needs to be healed. And my answer to that is, that's cool. It doesn't change the fact that you do. I don't care what human you are. There's always going to be work to be done. That's another question. So we'll talk about that later. But so
what do you do?
What do you do if you find yourself as the individual doing the inner work? And by the way, you're going to become aware of inner work. Or when you become aware of inner work, you're going to realize, wow, everybody needs to be doing this. Everybody needs to be engaged in this.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that everybody else is going to be aware of it.
Yeah. Well, it actually happened in our relationship that way. I started going through yoga teacher training, which led me down this path of doing inner work. And part of doing the inner work, you have this awareness that it's your work to do. And you do the work regardless of anything else. Like, you're not responsible for anyone else but yourself. So initially, the idea is that you're doing this to heal yourself. This is your work. And, if like, it's kind of this idea that like the fact that your partner is not engaging in the inner work is the work. Like, you do it in spite of that.
Wow.
Like, it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else.
Wow. That's beautiful. Should meme that. The fact that, say that again, the fact that your partner doesn't want to do the inner work
is the work.
Yeah. Because you're not responsible for them.
Yeah. They have their own path. Now, with that being said, so that was my approach initially, was like, this is my work. It has nothing to do with him. But the caveat, and you hear us say all the time, the answer is always yes and yes.
Right.
Because yes, there is truth to that. And yes, your partner is going to have an effect on you. You're sharing your life with this person.
Yeah.
So what I started...
Well, let's share. Can we go back just a little bit to our own experience and what that looked like? So
you
started sharing. Oh, okay. So you started sharing you were going through yoga teacher training.
Mm-hmm.
I was in jail when you started doing yoga teacher training. But I started down an inner work process.
Mm-hmm.
I read books about yoga. I read books about meditation. I started meditating. I started doing things. And do you remember what the difference was?
What I remember is I do remember that you embraced an aspect of spirituality, which you wouldn't have called spirituality while you were in jail because you needed to. What I began to notice is after you got out of jail and you no longer needed that in your life, you discounted all of it and said, I don't need any of that anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't, that's pretty close to accurate. What I was really feeling was, I was afraid. I was afraid of being caught into a cult or being caught, like being convinced of some, like radical, woo woo.
Yeah. I remember a lot of that because I was excited because I was like, okay, now he's felt what embracing this, spirituality, what it can do for you and doing this inner work. And so now that he's felt it, because when Brad and I first got together, he was a full-blown atheist. He had just left religion. And so he was like not about any of it. And I never identified as an atheist because it never resonated with me. I think because of the loss of my father at a really young age and the fact that I always felt that there was something more. I always felt guided by him or something. Like I felt like there was something outside of me that I didn't understand that had definitely guided my life.
You were comfortable with like the term agnostic because you weren't religious. You didn't belong to any religion.
Right.
But I remember like when I would be engaged in discussion, and I would basically like deny any supreme power. You'd be like, whoa, that's where I stop. Like,
yeah, that felt dangerous to me because if you're rejecting the very power of our universe, I was like, I don't know about that. Like that doesn't seem like.
Yeah. And we would have those discussions. And at the time I would be like, it's no big deal. Like, okay, so we don't agree on that. It's okay. I love you so much. It doesn't matter.
And you didn't really like you still identified as an atheist when you got out of jail.
Yes, I did for a long time.
Yeah.
Till recently.
Yeah.
A little over a year ago.
And you were still triggered by the word faith.
Yes.
Like as we started business planning and I started, like I remember first coming up with the balance acronym and the E stood for evolve. And I thought, okay, in order to evolve, it requires a leap of faith.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And you were triggered by that. That doesn't resonate with me. I don't like the word faith. And anyway, it started coming up in different areas as we were looking at the way we were gonna like. We had talked about like coaching people and just running even the way that we run our business. We began to not be united on some core principles. And I started realizing that like our values were becoming different. And it's possible for that to happen in a marriage.
Yes.
It's possible for you to start valuing completely different things. And I realized that this was a fork in the road for us. Like this was a point where I was going down this path of doing the inner work and really embracing this idea. And you were still very resistant towards it. And I was noticing that I couldn't have certain conversations with you or even like sharing information with you that was like mind blowing to me.
Right.
And you would discount and question everything.
Well, and it really, in our relationship, it started to come to a head from the end of 2019 until about the middle to end of 2020. That 2-year period was one of the rockiest periods for us because that's when you went to Costa Rica. So Tiffany went to Costa Rica, dove deeper into her inner work, did another 100-hour yoga teacher training, came back with even more enlightenment, even more like desire to do the work herself.
I came back completely on a completely different vibrational frequency than you. Like I went on this retreat, was completely supercharged, had done so much work, had healed so much. I was in this place of like beyond courage, had clarity and vision on what our business was going to look like and how we were going to do it, and came back on this high, like so excited, and expected Brad to be just as excited as I was about what our business was going to look like and all the amazing
And just
things we were
life.
going to do.
Like you were so positive and confident about what our life was going to look like. And I was not.
Yeah. And like you, I remember, yeah, just like it was like somebody just like popped my balloon and I became completely deflated because I came back and you, like, it started a big fight because you got angry at me
multiple times
and said, like, why do you keep shitting all over our business? Our business is fine. Like, why do you want to go out and do all of these things and change what we have? We're fine just the way we are. And I'm like, we can grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'll tell you, like if you're if you find yourself, if you're one of the partners, either one, and you're going through this metamorphosis, one of the key things that I witnessed in Tiffany as the person who was not is her resolve and resilience, like to her own inner work. Even when I was a dick.
Yeah.
Like she kept going forward.
Well, I kept what I eventually came to realize is that I kept saying to myself, okay, no excuses. This is my work. Has nothing to do with him, was the story initially. So keep going. It's fine. And then I came to realize, okay, this is true. I need to keep on this path of doing the work and doing what I know is going to help me evolve into the best person that I can be. However, there is the possibility of me then outgrowing Brad, and we are no longer a match. And I need to make a decision. Like, do I want to keep myself small to be in the relationship, or do I want to keep going down this path and see where it leads? And I didn't want to go down the path and not have Brad by my side, but I wasn't willing to abandon that path either. So I remember, just deciding like, I just need to have this part of, like, we made a promise to each other. We had a pact that like, whenever we were struggling with something in our relationship and we weren't feeling it, we would just talk about it. We had a lot of hard conversations about our kids. I mean, especially in a blended family and a second marriage. Yeah. You have to be talking about the shit all the time. You have to be addressing it. So I realized that I needed to have a very honest conversation with Brad and let him know that this is where we were at.
Well, and this is the cool thing about the conversation that we had. And number one, it wasn't just a one and done.
Right.
Like it was a theme of conversations for a while, for a few months, I would say, where you basically, with love, and I mean this, I didn't always receive it like with love, but looking back on it now, I can see, man, that was so much love that Tiffany shared with me, where this basic idea that, number one, we admitted from the beginning that this was a choice, that we were making a choice. We did not think that our relationship was destiny, that there was like this inertia that comes from the universe that forces us to be together.
We believed in free will.
We believed in free will. And we believed that we were meant to be together. Mm-hmm. So both things can be true. I know you might hear that and go, well, how can that be the case? It just is. Like, because of the way, but we were meant to be together when we were meant to be together, like during that time. Yeah. And if either one of us started making different choices, we could go down different paths. And we also, we made this decision, and maybe you might want to make a similar decision, that you are not, like, once you've made this decision, you're not trapped. In other words, you have the ability to choose something different at any one point. And I say all the time, any relationship is no more than 30 days away from being over if one of the partner stops choosing the other. Like, if you stop choosing your partner for 30 days straight, you'll be out of a relationship.
Yeah.
You could get it back maybe, but it would be hard. So you had this discussion with me where you reminded me of this. Hey, we made this decision that we might not go down this path forever. It's a daily choice. And you said it in so many different ways, in so many different loving ways, not like an ultimatum, giving me, look, Brad, you can make it on your own. I can make it on my own. We are truly interdependent, financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, every way possible. And interdependence is this idea that you're two independent souls that have made a conscious choice to go down the path together. And you reminded me of that. And you said, we can continue doing this, or I can continue going this way and you can continue going this way. It's okay either way.
Yeah. Well, just like any, when you go to work for any company, it's the whole reason why organizations come up with what their core values are, because there's a certain level of like needing to be a value match. And in a relationship, that is also true. Now you can have your own, you can have your own hobbies, you can have but doing yoga was much more than just a hobby of mine. And for a while we told ourselves that story, well, like yoga can be your hobby and that's fine. Like I don't need to be a part of it. But when I started realizing, no, this is becoming a core value of who I am, and he completely dismisses it. And not only does he dismiss it, he doesn't want to hear about it. So I could see the gap that this was starting to build in our relationship.
And so I had a choice to make. And the choice I decided to make, just so you guys understand, I didn't decide, oh, okay, well, I'm going to become a yogi so that Tiff accepts me. What I decided was I would be open-minded. I would listen. I would go try some of the stuff out. I would go participate in some of the experiences and some of the rituals and with a true open mind.
Yeah. And it didn't happen. Everything is a process too. Like I have to say, like Brad said, it wasn't just one conversation. In the moment, I thought it'll take one conversation and then this will be healed. And it didn't happen that way. It was a series of conversations that we had about this. And honestly, the first time he went to one of these, I think it was a heart circle or something that we went to, he was totally triggered.
Oh yeah.
Totally triggered.
Yeah. I made you leave like the first opportunity we got.
Yeah. He thought it was weird. He it did not go well.
No, but then I started, like over the years, I participated in yoga. Like I would do yoga because I thought, okay, this is not a bad workout. I can be more flexible. But I honestly had trouble when they would talk about, okay, now breathe into your heart center. Like I'd roll my eyes. Okay, breathe into my heart center. Open your heart. How am I supposed to open my heart? You literally can't open your heart. Like if you open your heart, you die. Breathe into your third eye. Your third eye is in your forehead. There's no connection to your lungs in your third eye. How am I supposed to do that? Like that's what was going through my head.
Right.
And I'd be like, can you just get back to like the movement? I'm going to move. I just need to move. Anyways, it was a process and is a process. I'm going to say that cause it's not like it's done.
Right.
There's this idea that, and I was talking about this earlier, that like when you're doing and engaging in the inner work, that there's a checklist. You can say, okay, that part's healed, that part's fixed. That's not the way it goes.
Right. Which is like one of our questions, I think, that we were going to answer today, right? Well, what would you say was the biggest turning point for you?
I have two.
Okay. What were they?
First one was plant medicine.
Yeah.
It was a plant medicine experience with a good friend, and it was psilocybin and MDMA, and it was very healing, and it was very like heart opening for me. It opened up my heart, and that's interesting because MDMA is known as a heart opener. And
I remember I was so grateful for that. I remember sending the friend the text and being like, okay, you just basically saved my marriage.
I really think it was probably the most pivotal
Yeah.
moment because I had been doing so many other things. And
What was it? Like, can you explain for people
well, look,
like
guys,
what it
trauma
was?
is such an interesting thing. Tiff used to talk to me about pain body, that and in yoga we call them samskaras, these wounds. Think of it even as scar tissue.
Yeah. So when trauma happens to you, and it's one reason why I say like everybody has trauma, because if you've experienced any kind of pain in your body, it's trauma. It manifests because everything is energy. So
Mhm.
it manifests in your body, especially emotions, because it's just energy in motion. And so that's basically what pain body, it's literally stored within your body. And the practice of yoga and asana is to release, to help release those
Yeah, and
samskaras.
so because I've dealt with a lot of physical suffering, I've torn both of my knees multiple times. I've had knee replacement surgery, shoulder injuries. I'm familiar with scar tissue and what it looks like, and I also know what happens when scar tissue is left alone. It actually binds up, and it gets it decreases your flexibility. It decreases the level of openness that you can experience in that joint. And a similar thing happens to us emotionally when emotional scars happen. They decrease our ability to experience flow in that part of our emotion. And what I didn't know is that like emotions aren't stored in just one part of our body. It's not just simply a something that's happening in our brain. It's a thing that's happening throughout our body. And as I've learned about the chakra system and how like the energy of emotions move through our body and affect us physically, it now starts to make sense. So what happened? That experience, number one, I was with other men. It was men only, and I felt like truly loved. I felt, and not just by men. I felt love from an outside source. I felt love from an inside source. I felt love all around me. And I was so grateful for it. And and when I felt that love, I immediately started thinking about you. And I immediately thought about you and like how perfect your love for me had been over the previous decade. And then I thought about how selfish I had been in not returning that same level of unconditional love back to you. And the way I had been holding it back from you is by not supporting you and not standing by your side at a full level, being almost holding back a certain level of love. And I could recognize that was part of my healing. That was part of my, I had done my best, but I could do better. And so I was able to come to you and tell you that and own it and tell you that I've not been the husband you deserve. You deserve much more.
Yeah.
And
I remember being so relieved too. There was like a sense of feeling validated when you came home, because you said, I never really understood all the stuff that you were telling me. Like, I just didn't get it.
yeah. And then I heard it for some reason with you not being there, and with the help of the medicine, I was able to hear it finally. That's the only way I can really describe it. And not just hear it, I could feel it. I could see it. And this is not to say that I have it mastered, because I don't. And that's that whole process. I'm still working on this. Like we had a great conversation yesterday where you basically described the exact same feeling that, hey, you're doing this thing to me again where you're popping
Deflating me.
And I'm like, oh shit, I am. What's going on? And so when she describes that for me, I'm able to look inward and say, okay, what's going on? What am I afraid of? What am I worried about?
And break the cycle.
Create new patterns. And we did that yesterday, which was So cool.
Such a breakthrough. It's so cool to
Yeah.
have those breakthroughs like that.
So that happened, and then shortly after that,
So I just want
go
to
ahead.
comment really quick. This is why I think, yes, I believe that people can take advantage of plant medicine, and the whole idea that people overuse it and, don't really integrate, like they don't integrate afterwards and do what the plant medicine is meant to do. It's meant to just show you what's possible, and then you go and do the legwork to make that possible. But I also think that people can be a little too far on the other side of that spectrum in discounting the power of plant medicine. So I just have to say that really quick, that one of the reasons I am so grateful for plant medicine is this right here. And that's not to say you do have to be careful with it, because if you're doing plant medicine all the time and you're not actually putting in the real work, which is integrating everything that you learn from the medicine, then
you may be guilty of spiritual bypassing.
yes.
And spiritual bypassing is where you basically skip the work part that's necessary to reach enlightenment.
Yes.
And you just focus on the feelings of enlightenment. And you almost, what I've noticed is if you find yourself needing the medicine to feel enlightenment and what enlightenment can be, you might need to do some work.
The work meaning like the disciplines that it takes to live a life that's like, you're not going to be enlightened right away, but it's living it every day. It's the disciplines to uncover what it is that still needs healing every day, to like, it's the discipline of every day.
And it's the disciplines of doing that while you take care of your family, take care of your responsibilities, pay your bills,
live the life
pay
of
your
a
taxes,
householder.
Live the life of a householder, which is the entire practice of our tantric yoga, which is we're not leaving the world to become enlightenment. We're doing it while still driving up and down Main Street, driving our kids to dance, going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, hanging out with friends that aren't engaged in this work.
Building a business. And living the same principles. That's the thing. It applies to every single area of your life. That's the cool thing about it. Like a lot of these principles, yes, while they were taught by someone who, was meditating in the side of a mountain, those people that taught it ended up saying like, this is possible. Not only is it possible, it's necessary for the average householder to be able to learn these principles. So anyway, I just needed to throw that out there.
Well, our teachers have reminded us over and over again, so many of the teachings of Buddha that people try to extrapolate and say, this is the life that I'm supposed to live. He was teaching, a lot of those teachings were for monks.
Yeah.
Like he was literally teaching other monks. There's a whole other course for householders and for people that are living in the world.
And the idea of enlightenment for the average person is, if you're going to make a difference in the world, you have to be in it. You have to be impacting the world, or you're not making a difference in the world. You're doing it for you, and that's great. And that's awesome. But like the real work is really impacting the collective consciousness. So
beautifully stated. Yeah. So plant medicine opened me up, and then we did the Namaste Together challenge with Matt Nash, our teachers. That was a 13-day, 2 hours or 3 hours. What was it? Was it 2 hours every day?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyways, if you don't follow the yoga couple, follow the yoga couple, and they have their Namaste Together challenge. Namaste, stay together. So it's a challenge specifically for couples, and you can go and subscribe to it.
Yeah, the cool thing was Brad said he came home and like owned it all. Was like, I'm sorry that I've been dismissing everything that you've been saying, and I'm sorry that I haven't supported you, and I get, I understand everything that you've been telling me, and that if I don't support you more, then it's going to create an even bigger gap in our relationship. And I understand that it's crucial for me to support you, and basically said to me, how can I support you? What can I do to help you feel supported? And I had been, this is funny, and I don't know that we've ever even told Matt and Ash this, but Brad was even triggered by Matt and Ash. He was completely triggered by them.
Yeah.
I followed them on social media, and because Matt shared the same religion as Brad earlier, and he was coming to peace and like embracing the religion now, you know, as he had reached a different state of consciousness, and Brad was triggered by that. And so when I would even like show him a video or a piece of content that they were putting out, he was not even really open to that. Like he was triggered by it. So
Totally. Yeah.
I had been seeing them putting out stuff that they were doing this Namaste Together challenge. And I was like, man, I really think that Brad and I need to do this. But I had already been thinking like, there's no way he's going to do it. There's no way. And, but when he came to me and asked, I was like, well, actually, there is something. And I asked him, and he was like, he took it. I still remember you were like, okay, I'll do it. And I was like, what? I was so taken back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I made a promise to myself that, and I still make this promise, that if I'm going to be in something, I'm just going to participate full out. I'm going to do it. Because nothing can happen to me in that moment to hurt me most of the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I had even mentioned that, because there were things that you would be like, okay, I'll watch the Greg Braden is someone who I really was into
teacher.
there for a while.
Really great teacher.
An amazing teacher, and taught a lot of these concepts.
We still listen to him.
Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
But do you remember the phase where you would turn it on? I would turn it on, and this concept would be mind-blowing to me, and I'd want to share it with Brad, and he would almost he would fall asleep, or he would argue every single point. Like he would not
I was also so obnoxious. I would take out a notepad and I would take notes and then start cross-referencing it to try to disprove the things
he was
saying.
Trying to disprove every single thing. And I finally just
so
said, you know what?
Obnoxious.
Just don't even watch it. If you're not going to be open to it, like, don't even bother. And so when he said yes to this Namaste Together challenge, I was like, okay, but you have to be all in. You have to be open. You can't do it with me and then roll your eyes at everything that they say and like question everything. And he promised he wouldn't do that. And I have to say that he did not do that. Like, he played full out. He did all the inner work. He started to get, like, he was more excited than I was as we were going through the course. Like, he was more mind blown than I was, I think, because a lot of the concepts I had already understood, but it was a game changer.
Well, I remember the very first thing was basically uncovering the lies that I'd been told. Like, when they did a version of that exercise, and when I realized that, number one, I am an innocent, whole human, like perfect soul. And I had been taught and shown a lot of really bad models. And so, of course, I reacted the way I did. Of course, I believed those things about myself. Of course, I had those limiting stories. How else was I supposed to react?
Yeah.
Of course I did.
Yep.
And for the first time in my then 50 years, I felt completely like free to be wrong.
Yeah.
And okay. Like, I didn't feel shame around the mistakes I had made for the first time in my life. And I grew up a Christian. I grew up with the story of Jesus. I grew up with the so much. And for the first time, I really felt it and I really believed it. And now, understanding where Jesus wraps into all of this, I feel ironically, like, if somebody were to ask me, do I consider myself a Christian? I'd probably say yes.
Yeah.
But I also consider myself somewhat.
Because you grew up with those teachings, and you've come to find out that there are teachings, that there is truth in all the ascended masters that came before us. They were trying to teach this basic principle to everybody. That was the whole point.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm like, I say that unapologetically. Like if
Yeah.
anybody wants to challenge me on that, how can you say you're a Christian? I'll talk to you about it. Like, and
It's
I'm
a
not
culture
ashamed of
more
it.
than anything else. And
Well, and it's also, there are some beliefs there as well.
right.
Like I now believe in some of the basic core principles that Jesus taught. One of them being that we don't have to suffer for all of our mistakes.
Yeah.
It's been taken care of, and we can move through it. We can move past it. But this isn't a discussion about Christianity, although that would be a fun one to have. So yeah. And now Tiff and I, now we're using the same language. This is probably the coolest thing about having gone from like being, because we're still not always in perfect alignment. Often we still trigger each other. We can still,
which is the point. We've talked about that before.
Yeah. The difference is we are now using the same language. And so our triggered periods are so much shorter, and like they're going, and they continue to condense. They continue to speed up this process. And like, I think about it, like, if you're driving across the country and your car breaks down, and the first time you break down, it takes you a month to get it fixed. Okay. I mean, your trip is now delayed a month. And then the next time you figure something out and it takes you a week to get it fixed. And then the next time it takes you a day. And then the next time a couple hours. And then the next time just a few minutes. And then like it just keeps condensing. So your trip just becomes, it's not that there aren't problems that are going to happen. It's that we get to do it together, and we get to get through the shit so much faster.
Right.
And we're using the same language. So can we condense? This has been a long discussion that I didn't know we were going to go this long.
But I think it's been good.
I think it's been perfect. The steps, if you find yourself in a relationship, you're doing the inner work and your partner isn't. We condensed it that number one, realize that it's not your responsibility to do their inner work, right?
Right.
What was number two? Because we wrote this down. So number one,
it was consistency, that it's a process.
So it's not your responsibility to fix them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, it's your responsibility to be consistent in your own work. It doesn't, like, just because your partner's not involved in the work doesn't mean you don't have the responsibility.
And I would also say that even though you think you're not, just by you doing the inner work, you're having an impact on them. You're planting seeds that they don't even know are being planted, and not that you're trying to, manipulate, do anything, but by you living in your light, that light is touching them. And so that they're going to see it. Eventually.
Yeah. Them not doing the work does not remove your responsibility to do your own work. So you don't have to fix them. You do have to continue to do your own work. And the third thing that I think is really crucial is this conscious acknowledgement that it might not work out.
Yeah.
That your relationship might not last.
Well, if you're committed to doing your inner work, it's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah. Like at some point, you're going to have the conversations that our values may change. And at that point, we each have the free will to decide what we want to do. And if we decide that we're going to go down completely different paths and our values are evolving, because as much as you say in a relationship that like, oh, we got in this relationship as this person, we need to stay this person, that's not reality. You change and you evolve as a person. You both do. And it's a conscious choice, like Brad said, to continue to choose each other. And if you choose to not choose each other, that's going to create a gap. And the reality is, if you do that long enough, you will find yourself as roommates and in an unhappy relationship at some point.
Yeah. The alternative to that is to choose to come together as often as possible. And all I can say is that the passion and the joy and the connection that comes from that, not just sexually, but just in every aspect of life, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like keep going after it, because 12 years ago when we got together, I thought oh my gosh, I've never been loved by it like this before. When I got out of jail 7 years ago or 6 years ago, I thought, man, I cannot believe she stuck with me through all this. And today I sit here and I know that that love was the most love I'd ever felt. And it's nothing compared to the love that I feel from you today.
Yeah. Yeah, I can say the same thing. Like when we first got together, I thought, man, our relationship is amazing. We can talk about anything. We spent the first part of our relationship just pulling out all of the skeletons in the closet and exposing exactly who we were to each other. And we still felt loved and accepted by each other. And I did not have any clue how good it could really be. Like I thought it was good back then, but to experience our relationship today, like in this point, it's just better than I didn't even know it was possible to have a relationship that was this authentic, that was this connected, that was um I often think like I truly feel like I am in a video game and I have this better half, this partner that's going through this video game with me. And I trust my partner so much. Like I know that he's not going to let me die. And so I can just go out and do what I have to do and be my best self and just be amazing. And he's going to do the same thing. And we are going to have each other's backs no matter what. And that is a fucking amazing feeling.
Yeah, it is.
I love it.
It is. So that's why you should keep doing your inner work, even if your partner's not.
Yeah.
Because it's simply the best choice.
And just understand that it's a process and that, either accept the fact, because doing the inner work is part of like non-attachment is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you this is something you commit to and you can't be attached to any outcome. You can hope for an outcome and you can present an outcome, but you can't be attached to any of it. It's about,
you have to give it your all.
Yeah.
With no guarantee of anything.
Yep.
Okay. We that took 46 minutes or so.
It's okay.
Okay. Let's go to this other question. We did a video recently where we talked about the reasons, we called it the reasons men cheat.
Before we go to that,
Go
can
ahead.
I just mention,
Yes.
You said something like, I know one of our questions was like, when does the inner work end?
Oh, should we go there?
I think so. Because
okay, perfect. Let's go there.
Staying on
I was
topic.
wondering about that. I'll follow your lead on that. So the question that we get, and that honestly I've dealt with, is okay, this inner work that we talk about. It can be exhausting at times. Like where I find myself currently is I still return to themes that I think I've healed. They show up in different ways. And at times I can feel almost like I'm overwhelmed with this. I can't do this again. I thought I had fixed this. Like the wound of one of the ways, one of my coping strategies is to cut corners. Like we've talked about that on the podcast, but that's one of my coping strategies. I'll take shortcuts if there's a way to get around something. And there are times when you figure out the quickest, easiest way to do something, and you do that. But there are times when you just have to bear down, and there are details and things that you have to do, and it's arduous and it takes work, like time. And I mean physical work sometimes. And you have to sit your butt down in a seat and get your ass to work, or you have to get your ass up and you have to go out and you have to, do the work in the field. You have to do the work on the house. You have to do something like over and over and over again repeatedly. And that's probably the thing that has caused me one of the things that's caused me the most amount of suffering. And the universe has a way, when you think that you've healed something, of pointing out or of asking you, have you really healed it? Challenging you almost, I think would be the right way to say it. Last night we did this meditation again, exposing the lies that I was told. and then writing the new truths. It's a beautiful practice. And I thought I was doing it just because it's a part of our yoga teacher training. And okay, I need to go through it again. I've done it before. I don't need to do it again. I've already exposed the lies. And it was powerful to me. I exposed lies. Even some of them were the exact same lies, but the way I felt them was different.
Yeah.
And it illustrated to me that, oh, there's still work to be done here.
Yeah.
I still return to these lies about myself sometimes when I'm confronted with struggle, when I'm confronted with storms. I will hear those stories coming to me, and mine are mean, and like the way it's described is like, if I said the things that I say to myself to a little child, to a little 3-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old, like, you're a liar, you're a fraud, you deserve to be alone, you deserve to be rejected, you are worthy of judgment. All these things that, like, if I said that to a little child, what kind of a terrible human would I be?
Right.
But I say them to myself.
Yeah.
I hear the stories in my head, and I don't change them all the time.
Yeah.
So last night I was reminded, like, oh, there's still work to be done.
Yeah.
But I've been engaged in this, and I've wanted to say, okay, I've been doing this for a while now. Feels like, I mean, it's not really that long.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that?
So this is, I think of the Drew McManus song, or Satsang song, that the work is never done. And I really believe that. And that doesn't mean
the song is between.
Yeah. With the lyrics, the work is never done.
The work is never done.
And that may sound discouraging to a lot of people, but the way that it works is it's like an onion. You start uncovering the layers, and it's also like a cycle. And if you know anything about chakra psychology, we have 7 different chakras, and the different samskaras typically are associated with a different chakra in our body, which represents different areas of our life, different parts of our body. And what I've found, which correlates with like the True Life Balance journal that I've come up with, is all the chakras are out of balance in different areas. Yes, if you're going through inner work, it's best to start with the root chakra and then just work on everyone and do the inner work that's associated with every single one as you go up the central channel. But what I've also experienced is like, you go through that and you get out of alignment in different areas in different ways. So it's kind of like, it's never ending, you know?
Yeah.
You've healed one thing. For me, 2 big ones is like, I still deal with some trauma in my root chakra. And that relates to like your foundation. It has a lot to do with your ancestral like history, your family life and your foundation. So like whether or not you were raised with money or a strong foundation, whether or not you had to worry about your basic needs. And for me, I did as a kid. So so I overcompensate a lot and feel like, the reason I don't feel supported is because that's a core wound of mine from when I was a child. I never felt supported. So I overcompensate and feel like I have to fend for myself all the time, and I have to overwork myself to make sure that I'm supported.
Well, and it's a trigger for you as well.
Yes.
Right? When you don't feel supported,
yes,
it shows up easily for you.
Yeah. So, and it also represents like disciplines. Like if we want to feel supported, it starts with disciplines, right? But another one that showed up for me again last night was actually like my heart chakra, because I don't love myself enough. Like my heart is blocked. I have a lot of tightness in my shoulders. And So I've told myself, and our yoga teacher talks about, like, when you're looking to heal something, and a lot of times it's going to show up, it's going to manifest in your body. Like I just mentioned, my tight shoulders is connected to the heart chakra. Me protecting my heart, feeling like I also I don't give myself enough love. There's a lot of self-love issues there as well. So I've decided that my yoga practice for the next 40 days is going to be centered around love, my heart chakra, giving love, receiving love. And in that, inherently, as you dive into yoga, you choose a lot of practices that are like heart opening.
Yeah. Back bends.
Which is connected to the shoulders. Yeah. Back bends, opening
Openers.
up the shoulders and the heart. So it's, but then you may go through that and you've healed that in this certain way. You've healed it in your body, but then something else comes up, right? Something else shows itself. And so you're always being an investigator of your psyche, your being, just observing and then putting in the work that's necessary to heal that thing within you. So I do think it's not that you don't accomplish healing. You absolutely accomplish healing. But if you don't heal it in your body as well, it's going to keep showing up.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can heal it emotionally, but the body
remembers it.
The body remembers
it's
it.
stuck there.
Yeah, and so you talk to me about this so often, like that. This is why our feeling on talk therapy. Talk therapy is great. It's a great start. You will never really heal that wound without moving through it physically, because there's this basic idea that our body, our soul, our emotions, they are all intricately connected. You're not, it's not two separate things or three separate things, which is like pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Because we know that like the body dies and some energy continues.
Yeah.
Like that's been tracked. Okay. So,
and I have to say the biggest difference between yoga and working out is, yes, yoga provides the benefits. I think I'm totally biased. I think it's like times 100, the benefits that the physical benefits that yoga can provide physically, like working out. However, the biggest difference is you are doing this work and you are healing this energy and these stored emotions and samskaras as you're getting the benefit of working out. It's the unity of, your soul, your emotions, the physical, all of it. What working out can do, I've heard, I had a mentor tell me this, and it's kind of stuck with me. What tends to happen with people who are like gym rats and just working out all the time in the gym, and it's all that fire and all that, just contraction and not releasing, not stretching, and intentionally, because the mind is important. Where your mind goes, energy flows. So the intention behind it is everything. But what tends to happen is you're unconsciously trapping those samskaras within the body. And so then it requires even more work to let it go, to release it from the body.
Because you've literally done the work to maintain them.
Yes.
Yeah. As opposed to doing the work to extricate them.
To release it.
Release them. Wow. I love hearing you describe that, by the way. And I love watching you because you're such a great example. Like, yoga is your practice. And that's one of the things that I'm still trying to figure out and work out in my mind and in my practice, is like, because I'm still trying to combine the weightlifting element, the contraction with the opening. And it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process. Well, that's 2 questions. 1 hour in the books. I think that's good enough for today.
I think so too. It keeps it in the same theme.
Yeah.
We could address the others another time, but
we'll go over those another time. I did want to, as we were talking about, I wanted to make sure like we're not encouraging you to leave your partner if your partner's not doing the work.
Not at all.
We are encouraging you to dive into your work and show up as your best self and see what happens. And if you need to, Tiff reminded me about this week, what faith, like you can ask yourself, what if the worst case scenario happens? But she reminded me when I was in a really bad spot this week, what if the best thing happens? Instead of asking ourselves, what if you get divorced? What if we end up separated? Ask yourself, well, what if we get more unified than ever?
Yeah.
What if I show up as my best self?
What if effectively? If you're going to what if, you should what if effectively.
Yeah.
If you're going to ask yourself, well, what if the worst case scenario? Be conscious about also asking yourself, what if the best case scenario?
Yeah. And if you happen to be the feminine partner, the one who, the feminine partner, just know that you possess so much strength and power that, like you're strong enough, and it can happen. You can get unified. And if you find yourself being the masculine, like pay attention to the feminine part of it, and ask yourself like where that can show up. I don't know. I just want to give you guys hope. Like there's always hope. Tiff and I have done it from a blended family, separate kids, brought them together. We've done it under difficult situations, and everybody's difficult situation is their most difficult situation. But hopefully our story is one that gives you a little bit of hope and a reason to have faith.
Absolutely.
Because we're not the only ones who are doing it, by the way. There's like lots of other couples doing the same thing. We just want to make sure that you know about one of us. Okay. I think that's it for today. Anything else, Tiff, from you?
No, we covered it.
Thank you again. Feel free to shoot us a message, shoot us a question. We enjoy feedback anytime we get it. So love hearing from whether it's a personal contact to one of us or reaching out to us on one of the platforms.
Yes.
Love hearing from you guys.
And we love you.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste.